Welcome to Innovations and Breakthroughs with your host, Rich Goldstein, talking about the evolutionary, the revolutionary, the inspiration and the perspiration, and those aha moments that change everything. And now, here's your host, Rich Goldstein.
Rich Goldstein here, host of the Innovations and Breakthroughs podcast, where I feature top leaders and the path they took to create change. Past guests include Rick Cesari, Yoko DeBear, and Howard Getson. This episode is brought to you by my company, Goldstein Patent Law, where we help you to protect your ideas and products. We've advised and obtained patents for thousands of companies over the past 26 years. So if you're a company that has software, a product, or a design you want protected, go to goldsteinpatentlaw.com, where there are amazing free resources for learning about the patent process. And you could email my team at welcome@goldsteinpc.com to explore if it's a match to work together. You could also check out the book I wrote for the American Bar Association that explains in plain English how patents work. It's called the ABA Consumer Guide to Obtaining a Patent. I have here today Andrew Stess. Andrew is an entrepreneur in the digital music business. He facilitated a number of transactions, including the sale of allmusic.com to Macrovision for $85 million. He currently advises and serves on the boards of a variety of new media businesses, including AudioBridge, Dash Radio, Music Story, Lyric Find, Span, Velas Mobile, and others. His focus is on helping companies to grow and scale their revenue through strategic partnerships. I'm honored to welcome here today Andrew Stess. Welcome, Andrew.
Good to be here. Thank you. Good to be
thank
here.
you. I stumbled a little bit over all those different companies that you're working with. So I guess, how do you find the time to work on so many different projects?
Well, it's interesting because I think we talked about this a little bit before, in the sense that I only do projects that I really like and really want to do. And sales, business development, advising, I always say it's sort of a 24/7 job. You never stop. If you're good at it, you never stop. You never, always be closing, as they say. So it's not a job where you sit at 8 hours at a desk and just make calls. There's a lot goes on to it. And so I only do things that I like and believe in. So I find time for everything. And all the projects I work on are complementary. So there's nothing competitive. And so that really helps. And I joked about being at conferences with a trench coat and lifting, hey, you want little knives, you want, a fork, you want, all these different things you can have. And, but really, when I can meet with a company and tell them, oh, hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? It really benefits all the companies that I work with. So that's how I make time. And like I said, I only work with companies that I really believe in.
Nice. Well, you must be rather good at flowing from one thing to another, working on one company 1 minute and then doing something for a different company the next. And admittedly, I'm rather linear. So
well, lawyers, but you guys work on a lot of things, so
that's true.
You're used to it, but you compartmentalize it because you're working on one client, then the next client, and you're charging by the minute, right? Or by the quarter of an hour, or however you do it. And so I think you can compartmentalize that a little easier. With me, like it flows. So when I'm talking to somebody, I wear hats literally, but I always say, figuratively, I wear many hats. And if you're on a call, and my goals with companies is like, well, how can I help move them forward? And I love to say, we're talking like, wait, have you thought about this aspect of the business or that? I'm working with a company that does this. You should meet them. Excuse me, all of a sudden my throat's going. But it makes it a lot of fun. And I never want to lose my sense of urgency either. So as a sales guy, you always got to be worried about the next deal, and that you can't sort of be satisfied with the one you just closed. So even no matter, I've been doing this a long time, I always still feel like for all my clients, I want to do a great job. And I always feel nervous. Oh my God, who's gonna, what am I going to do next? Where's the next call? But if you do your job right and you build the pipelines and you have the relationships, it just, like I said, it just continues to flow really well.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And you mentioned sales, and I know you have a variety of different roles at the different companies you work with, but a lot of it, and I think a lot of your strategy is rooted in sales.
Yeah, I mean, I learned from a mentor many years ago that we're all, no matter what area of a company we work in, we're all in sales, whether you're in engineering or marketing, or you're the CEO or whatever part of the company, it's all about sales. So I look at sales and business development are my two, the things that I do the most. In some roles I'm pure sales, running sales for a company. In some roles it's more partnerships. In some roles it's just advising them on what, the types of partnerships they should do. Or I got an email from one of my clients today, one that I advised in Audio Bridge, and phenomenal company. I just started working with them, but there's a deal that they got an intro into a company, and they wanted to strategize on the possibilities of the partnerships. And because it's really important that when you have that meeting, when you finally get the meeting, is that you're focused on what you can do together and how you can help them and how they can help you. So but sales is at the core of all of it.
That's what sales is exploring where there's value, exploring where there's a match to work together.
Yeah, and I love it. My first sales gig when I was a kid was I was a vendor at the University of Miami baseball games when I was 14. Might have even been 13. I was pretty young, and it's like, I think it was 13, 14. I'd been going to the games as a fan, and I got to know the people who ran the concessions, and they're like, "Hey, do you want to sell Cokes?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, what do I have to do?" They're like, "Well, you buy the tray. Here's a tray of Cokes. You buy it for wholesale, and then you sell it retail." And I'm like, that sounds like a pretty good. So I, buy them for $18. You sell the tray for $30, whatever it was at the time. It's probably a buck of Coke back then or whatever. But and
Coca-Cola
I remembered,
we're talking about now, right?
Coca-Cola.
Okay,
yeah, it was Miami, so it wasn't Coke, the other kind of Coke, but it was Coca-Cola. So that's really funny. Miami, it could have been the other one in the 80s for sure. But it's Coca-Cola and or any kind of soda. And I remember I sold more than anybody, and they had a lot of people. And I felt, and kind of later on, I felt bad because some of the folks that had been doing it that's what they did for a living. I was outselling all of them because I hustled more. And I would say if somebody needed a hot dog or a piece of pizza, I would bring it to them as well. So I enjoyed the sale. I enjoyed coming home, and I was making a ton of money for a 14-year-old kid. And then when I got out of music college, I went to Berkeley College of Music, got my bachelor's there. I started bartending, which is its own kind of sales. And then I got my real estate license at 21 and started selling houses, and which was kind of crazy because nobody I knew could afford a house. So I didn't have any network of friends that could buy one. So it was all like I would sit at the front desk and people would come in. So sales has sort of been there a long time. And then I was in bands. I was always the business guy.
What's your main instrument?
I'm a bass player.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'm a songwriter and bass player. So, but I was always the guy in the band, the one not drinking and the one always doing the business stuff. So sort of, at the core of my of what I do is in sales for a long time. So.
Nice. Well, as the bass player, it's like you're the rhythm section. Like you keep the action moving forward and on time, right?
And we're the glue, is what I always say. We're the glue, and we need to communicate really well with everybody in the band. Not that every instrument needs to do that, but we're really from the melody and the rhythm together, and that's the approach that I take as a consultant, is moving things forward. And I've been CEO of companies, I've done head of sales, all that, but I don't have an ego where I need to be the guy, the front man, right? So my role as the bass player is similar to my role as a consultant with every company that I do. And I think I was a pretty good bass player, and I think I'm a pretty good consultant. So
nice. Yeah. And so, in terms of being a consultant, so you work with a lot of early stage companies and you help bring them to the next level. But I guess that means different things in different contexts, right? Like for a different company, the next level can be something totally different than another. Yeah,
absolutely true. And it's funny, I said consultant, but I hate the word consultant because it's not just telling people what to do. I really get, in the huddle, and I help do it, right? I like to, I'm doing the job. I'm not just telling them what to do, even though I am an advisor.
Right. You're a player too. You're not just the direct, you're not just the, what's the word I'm looking for? The guy who directs an orchestra. What do you call it?
The conductor.
You're not just the conductor.
Yeah.
You're also a player.
Yeah, like a Celtic Bill Russell player coach back in the day, right?
Right.
And you know, that's the thing. I love all parts of it, whether it's the strategy or the execution. I think the execution is really, really important. It's fun because like you said, every role is different, and in some of the companies, I think I said this earlier. I run all the sales, so I'm the one building the pipeline. I'm the one, you know, hunting and doing that. But with small companies, it's really there's less layers. You know, it's not when you get into the bigger companies and the public companies, and you have multiple layers, and it's quotas, and you know, there's processes and things. You can't move as fast. They're not as nimble. And I don't think I would enjoy that. Even though there is I have a process in how I work. I believe that the role is different in everything that I do, because you know, sometimes it's just one little area where I'm helping in. With Dash Radio, I helped them with their distribution over the years and get them into cars and OTT platforms and things like that. I did that with the music service RDO for 5 years, and we were on more cars at the time than Spotify, and it was really part Evangelist as well. You're as a salesperson or business developer, you're also an evangelist, and I take that role very seriously, because before COVID, when we went to conferences, you know, you're the one out there, one of the people out there, and you're evangelizing your client or your company.
Yeah. Well, but speaking of evangelizing your client, that was a rather understatement that you made. You said, well, you know, I helped Dash get them into cars. Oh, you mean like the #1 app in all GM cars, right?
Yeah, that was a great deal, because
But I'm saying it's a little understatement. Like, yeah, I helped them get into cars.
yeah,
That's the #1 app in GM cars.
I'm not as good at promoting myself and the things that I do as I am my clients, because I just think that the work should speak for itself. That's one I'm really proud of, because you know, automotive is a tricky space when it comes to how long the cycles are for development, and
their receptiveness to outside ideas too. Like their receptiveness to things outside of this small industry bubble.
Yeah, and GM is really technology savvy. They don't promote themselves as well as they should in that. They're a really technology savvy company, and I was really impressed with them. And I can't say that every car company I've done a deal with I've been impressed with over the years. And those guys were really good. And they sell a lot of trucks, and they're known for, you know, those kinds of vehicles. But their technology is really, really good. And that was a deal where you know, that the app got downloaded to the car in an update, and we're embedded in the car, so you don't need a phone for it. So when you drive off the lot, it just works, because there's no subscription for Dash Radio, and it's free. So it just, you can hit a button and it works, and that's amazing. You know, that makes it a lot easier. If the user experience in any kind of consumer app, the user experience has to be good. So yeah, so some of the roles that I do are with direct to consumer companies like Dash Radio and Audio Bridge, which is an app for recording on your iPhone. It's groundbreaking recording software for your iPhone. And then some of the clients I've worked for over the years, Lyric Fine, B2B lyrics provider, provide lyrics to YouTube, to Pandora, many companies, Amazon, their lyrics and their music service, it's phenomenal. And I did that deal. And then Music Story is a metadata company I work with out of France, and they provide metadata to the music service Deezer and Qobuz, and those are B2B sales. So it's B2B versus direct to consumer are different. So as a business developer, a salesperson, when you're working with a consumer company, but you're doing business deals, but that ultimately get to the consumer, versus working with a B2B company where you're just trying to do the deal with the other business.
Got it. And so you're involved in it sounds like you're involved in all different levels of deals. I mean, some of those deals are small deals, like where you're just, it's more almost B2C deals. Like there's like sales that the company needs to have done, which you're helping them do. You're helping them to create their sales team and their marketing. And then there's the bigger deals, like the acquisition type deals. Now, I mean, and you've been in this business for decades. I mean, what role do you think that credibility plays in deal making?
Well, yeah, I always say my biggest asset is my credibility. If I call a company, they know, or somebody I know at a company, they know, and they know me. I call them the friendlies. I always hit up the friendlies first, that they know I'm not going to call them about something I don't believe in. So that credibility, gets me in the door to all these big companies. But still, there's turnover all over the place. So I have to go, and I'm still not afraid to cold call or reach out to somebody on LinkedIn if I think it's relevant. And hopefully they can look at my profile and say, okay, I want to take this guy's call. Doesn't always happen. Sometimes I have to, hit them up from multiple angles, but that the credibility asset is important to getting any deal done. And especially if you're representing a company that has technology, and when, even if it's a small part of somebody's consumer business, that technology has to work. And if I represent a company that it doesn't work, then it's my butt on the line, not just my clients. So that I take that responsibility, a lot. So make sure that's important to me.
Let's talk about IP a bit. So, what role have you seen IP play in the growth of these companies you've been working with?
Well, it's my first CEO gig. I joined a company called Music IP that did music fingerprinting technology and music recommendations. This is back in 2007, and they were spending a lot on patents. I mean, almost too much, to be honest with you. The incredible technology, and I had to really understand as the CEO, where every dollar and every penny was going. And I kept seeing all these, costs in the patents. I wanted to understand a bit more about, which ones were relevant, which ones weren't, what countries, all that kind of stuff. So I learned a lot with that, and talking to our patent attorneys at the time, and then new patent attorneys, just to get people's takes on it. And then that company was interesting, because that company, with about 6 other companies, got sued by a patent troll. And we were sued with Pandora and a bunch of other companies at the time. And I was literally the day before Thanksgiving, you get it's really, really fun. And then the difference
they served you at home, I guess, right?
Day before I was at the office, actually. I was at the office. I was about to fly home, because the company was in Southern Cal, and I lived in Northern Cal, and I was just about to head to the airport to fly home. We got served. I was like, oh my God. And, but then also understanding where a patent attorney, one that's helping you get patents, is different than a litigator, right? So, that our board and our folks wanted to continue to use the attorney that we had at the time, and which are great. They were good attorneys, but they weren't litigators. Right. And we spent a lot of money on it, and then we switched to a real tough dude litigator, and we were out of it within 3 days of him joining, because he was like, nope, this is it. And I learned a lot, where I think we spent a few $100,000 that we shouldn't have, which for a startup's a lot of money. And that changed the way I thought about patents going forward for the companies I worked with after that. So I had acquired the assets to that company later on with some new investors, and really pinpointing on where we thought we would spend our money, and gave up on a bunch of different territories and different things. And I ended up, I always say that when you're CEO, you've got to understand every part of the business. And I ended up learning a ton about patents, and that now I'm hopefully able to help the startups I work with their strategy. But also, you really want a good patent attorney, and because that's part of the team if you've got the IP and the technology. So that was my first CEO gig, and I learned right away. I mean, that was something I was thrown right into the fire. But up until then, I had no experience with patents.
Yeah, granted, and a lot of times, I mean, most entrepreneurs don't have experience with patents, and I mean, there's a lot of gems in what you said there. I mean, part of it is that, yeah, I mean, there will be some patents that are important to what you're doing in the company, and some of them not so much, and it's really important to know the difference, and then also with regard to yeah, I mean, it sounds like you had some attorneys that were patent prosecutors. Those are the types of patent attorneys that help people
Mhm.
to get patents. And it
Yep.
sounds like they tried to be all things to all people, so to speak, by branching into helping you with the litigation, where they should have just sent you to the litigators to begin with. I mean, like, I don't do litigation. I
Yeah.
don't pretend to do litigation. So, like, because litigation is it's a chess game. It's a different type of chess game than getting patents. Like, there's the substance of what you get, but then there's the whole game of chess that has to do with litigation, which you know, it's as much about the substance as it is about just your experience with the psychology of what works. You know.
Yeah, it was, I tell you, it was really early on. I think I'd only been at the company a couple months. And, when you're trying to get a company going from a revenue standpoint, deal standpoint, product standpoint, to, get thrown that early on, and not only the cost, but the time suck on it. And, hindsight is great when you look back, oh, we should have switched to that guy. Sooner, but we did eventually, and he was great. I honestly, and I can't remember his name now. I was talking about him recently with somebody, and I can't remember the name of the guy. And unfortunately, the person who recommended him passed away, so I can't ask. But that guy was amazing,
Huh.
and I will figure it out at some point.
All right. Well, when you do, let me know. I mean, I like to have good people to send clients to as well for litigation, because
Yeah,
it is a whole
yeah,
thing in itself. But
yeah.
but
I
yeah,
think
but
I'm on
there's an
LinkedIn
important
with him, but I
lesson
can't.
there
Yeah.
for startups,
Hmm.
like just spending your money on the right IP.
Yeah.
Like one of the first things you said in this last segment was how, like, they were spending a lot of money on IP, like maybe too much, if that's possible. And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's possible. I see it all the time. I see companies move up to a new level of funding, and now all of a sudden they've got a bunch of money to throw at IP, and there's not a lot of strategy that goes into what IP they invest in. And so it's like, well, let's
Yeah.
get 10 different patents on this, where maybe one good one is what they really need.
Yeah, and you said the right word, which is strategy. You have to have a strategy in anything we do, whether it's IP or sales or business development or a product. It has to have a strategy. You can't just make it up as you go. You got to be, like I said, nimble. The good startups, I think, are nimble, and your strategy can change. There's, you're going to make mistakes, but if you don't have a real strategy, haven't thought it out, then you're going to be in trouble. And that's what the part of I love to do is the advising part is fun, because helping companies to avoid some of the mistakes you made or were involved with at different companies, and helping them not make those mistakes. And I've got stories where there was one company I was talking to. They were I won't mention their name, but they were about in 2011, we're going to open up in a San Francisco office, and they were interested in hiring me to open up the San Francisco office. And I met with the CEO, and we were talking. It's a great idea. This company's still around, and it's gone through a lot of changes. But I said, whatever you do, I said, don't give up control. You've got this great company. Don't take too much investment where you lose control, because then your path is going to diverge most likely on what's good for the company versus what's good for the investors. And he looked at me with his eyes just they got really big. I'm like, you just took a new round, didn't you? He goes, yeah, it's not announced yet. And he said, yeah, but these guys are different. These ones are different, and he's no longer the CEO. I can tell you that, of this company now years later. But it was one of those stories where not having a strategy, and then you can't expect the investors to come in and give you the strategy, right? One of the mistakes I made as a new CEO coming into a company in an industry that I knew really well, we're selling AMG on music.com to Macrovision. I get an offer for somebody in the space that competes somewhat against them, but has different technology, to be more of an entrepreneur, even though I didn't found the company. And you get in there and you realize the investors have a vision. The founders had a vision. Board members had a vision. They didn't all necessarily have the same vision.
Right.
And I think I would have handled things a little differently today if I went into that position, but then I did then. And actually recently talked to one of the investors. He hit me up for some advice on a music startup that he was investing in. He's not the same company anymore, but does some angel stuff. And we didn't have a falling out. It just didn't go well at the end. And I didn't agree with how they did things. But I said at the end of our call, I said, let's look back at what we didn't do and should have done, could have done. And I've thought about it a lot. And because I try to take those experiences and help the companies I work with. And it was a great call. He was like, "You're absolutely right. Had we done that, I said, yeah, but I didn't know that back then either. I can look at it now. And 4 weeks into my stint, if I had the knowledge on our first board meeting, I would have gone a completely different route. But they had their vision. And, when you're the CEO, unless you're the founder with control, you're still just an employee. That's the thing. But when you have 51%, you're not an employee. You can control that vision and have that strategy, whether it's patents or anything else you work with. So.
Yep. Awesome. And it's awesome that you get to take that, kind of take those lessons learned, and lumps taken to some extent, and use them for advising other companies that are kind of destined to go down similar roads, but hopefully not with the same, taking the same lumps that you took to learn those lessons. And, and so if people want to learn more about you or get in touch with you, how do they go about doing so?
So LinkedIn is a great way to see what I've done. It's Stess is my profile, STESS. Andrew is my first name. Then STESS is in Sam. But my email, simple Stess@gmail. Best ways to get a hold of me. If you got something that's cool and relevant to what I do, I'm happy to talk to anybody. Before COVID, I would go out to conferences and build a pipeline. I'd speak at them. I'd just attend them, and I'd have all this great connections with people, and give 1 million business cards, get 1 million business cards. We don't have that right now, so now we've got to turn over every rock, meet as many people as we can, and like to meet you, Rich, and really respect what you've done. And when you reached out to me, I immediately got back because I was like, oh, this guy's real, he's relevant, and let's see where it goes. So I'm always happy to talk to any startup, even whether you're in school, out of school, have money, don't have money, always happy to have a conversation. And one of my gigs is I'm on the board of advisors for the University of Pacific, their music business program in Stockton. And I've been with them about 3 years, helping out students, and I love it. So it's, all stages, wherever you're at, happy to talk. So.
Awesome. Very generous of you. And then I also get that that's part of the secret of your success is the way in which you have a network and are open and generous and contribute to your network. So thanks for doing that. And really thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Rich. It's been great. I like to talk, so it's fun. It's a good, I had a pretty busy day with calls and some good stuff happened today. I'm in a good mood. and then I'll take a break and get back to it. And I have a new client that's in Australia, so my days are getting longer. So awesome. Obviously you gotta be 24/7, but anyway, well, thank you so much for the time, and good to be on your podcast. Looking forward to sending it out to people.
Awesome. Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks for listening to Innovations and Breakthroughs with your host, Rich Goldstein. Be sure to click subscribe, check us out on the web at innovationsandbreakthroughs.com, and we'll see you next time.